Psychology of the brain, how we remember and why we forget. Why do we remember some things for life, yet forget others overnight? This question strikes at the heart of our everyday experiences. Think about it. You spend all night studying for an exam, confident you've mastered the material, only to blank out the next morning. Or you walk into a room purposefully, then can't recall why you went there. You might even forget the name of a person you met just yesterday, yet clearly remember the dress you wore on your first day of school, years ago. These relatable moments of remembering and forgetting set the stage for an intriguing journey into the psychology of memory. Why do some memories stick like glue, while others slip through our fingers by sunrise? To understand why we remember or forget, we first need to know how memories form. In our brains, memories start as electrical signals in the present moment. Psychologists often distinguish between short-term memory and long-term memory, and a helpful analogy is to think of a computer. In this analogy, short-term memory is like your brain's RAM, a temporary workspace, whereas long-term memory is like a hard drive that stores information for the long haul. Much like how a computer loses unsaved data when it's turned off, our brain can also lose information if it doesn't save it properly. The brain's save process is known as memory consolidation. It's how fragile new impressions in short-term memory get encoded into durable long-term memory. Short-term memory, often equated with working memory, is the mind's scratch pad. It holds a small amount of information, usually a few items, for a brief period. For example, when someone tells you a phone number and you keep it in your head just long enough to dial it, that's short-term memory in action. Psychologists often say short-term memory can hold roughly 7 items, like digits of a phone number, for only about 20 seconds before it either decays or gets transferred to long-term memory. After that, if the information isn't reinforced or saved, it fades away. Long-term memory, on the other hand, is more like a vast library or an archive of your life. It stores everything from the multiplication tables you learned in school to the taste of your grandmother's apple pie, but getting information into this mental library isn't automatic. It requires that consolidation save, meaning the memory traces must be strengthened and stored away. This often happens during rest and sleep, when the brain catalogs the day's experiences. In fact, researchers have known for decades that memory consolidation happens during periods of rest. Taking short breaks or getting sleep after learning can improve how well things stick, because the brain uses that downtime to solidify memories. Memory formation is not just about time, but also significance and emotion. Have you noticed how you can vividly recall an emotional event from years ago, yet forget a mundane detail from yesterday? Emotional or meaningful experiences tend to get special treatment. Our brains tag them as important. This is partly due to the amygdala, the brain's emotional center, boosting the memory-forming process when feelings run high. It's as if the brain is saying, "This matters. Remember this." Meanwhile, more ordinary, unremarkable information might not get that priority treatment, and can fade quickly if we don't revisit it. If memories are so important, why do we forget it all? Forgetting might seem like a flaw in our mental system. Who hasn't felt frustrated when a fact they knew yesterday has vanished today? In the late 19th century, psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus conducted pioneering experiments on memory and discovered a pattern in how we forget information over time. He plotted his results on what's now famous as Ebbinghaus's forgetting curve. The forgetting curve shows that right after we learn something, our memory of it declines rapidly at first, then levels off over time. In fact, without any review or reinforcement, we tend to lose about half of newly learned information within a day or two. Imagine filling up a bucket with water that has a leak. Initially, the water, or memory, drains out quickly, then slower as the bucket gets emptier. Ebbinghaus's experiments involved memorizing lists of nonsense syllables and testing himself after various intervals. His results and many studies since reveal an exponential forgetting, a sharp drop in retention soon after learning, which then gradually tapers. This is why cramming for a test the night before can be so ineffective. By the next day or the day after, much of that hurriedly learned information may evaporate. It's not that your brain is deleting things on purpose to annoy you, it's just the natural curve of memory decay when memories aren't strengthened. Interestingly, forgetting isn't all bad. Many scientists now suggest that forgetting is a feature, not a bug, an active, purposeful process that helps our brain prioritize. After all, our minds are bombarded with countless bits of input every day, and if we remembered all of it, we'd be drowning in details. From an evolutionary perspective, memory's goal isn't to perfectly archive everything, but to hold on to what's truly useful. As two neuroscientists explain, the brain's memory system exists not just to store data but to optimize decision-making in a changing environment by discarding information that isn't important. In other words, forgetting helps us prioritize. Think of pruning a tree. Some memories are trimmed away so that more important ones can thrive. In everyday life, that might mean you forget the exact shirt you wore last Monday because it's not crucial. But you retain the knowledge of how to log into your email or how to ride a bicycle, which is far more useful on a daily basis. However, we often don't want to forget certain things, like the material for an exam, names of new acquaintances, or where we placed our keys. So, how can we work with our brain's natural tendencies to forget, and bend that curve in our favor? The answer lies in understanding how to strengthen our memories. The good news is that psychologists have identified effective techniques to help information stick in our minds. By using these methods, we can remember more and forget less. Here are 3 powerful science-backed strategies for boosting your memory. Spacing effect, spaced repetition. Instead of cramming information all at once, spread out your learning over time. The spacing effect is a phenomenon where we learn and retain information better when study sessions are spaced apart rather than massed together. It's like watering a plant regularly instead of flooding it in one-go regular intervals. Give the memory time to strengthen between sessions. For example, if you're trying to learn a new language vocabulary, you might review words for 20 minutes each day over a week rather than 2 hours in one night. Each time you revisit the material after a gap, you interrupt the forgetting curve and reinforce the memory, making it last longer. This strategy takes advantage of the way our brain reconsolidates memory after each review, essentially hitting the save button multiple times. Have you ever noticed that you recall information much better after you've had to really think hard about it, or explain it to someone else? That's retrieval practice at work. Active recall means deliberately pulling information from your memory, rather than just rereading it. Quizzing yourself, for example, with flashcards or trying to teach someone else are simple ways to practice retrieval. The very act of trying to remember strengthens the neural pathways associated with that memory. It's like doing a workout for your brain. Each time you recall an answer, you're flexing and fortifying that memory muscle. This approach is so well regarded it's often called the testing effect, because testing yourself is one of the best ways to cement knowledge. Studies have shown that practicing retrieval is extremely effective for long-term retention, often more effective than rereading notes or highlighting. Even making mistakes can help. When you check and correct yourself, you signal to your brain, this information matters, hold on to it. Our brains are wired to remember stories, imagery, and patterns more easily than raw facts and figures. Mnemonic devices are little hacks that create such patterns or associations to make information more memorable. One classic example is the acronym ROY-G-BAV to remember the colors of the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Another is the memory palace technique, an ancient method where you imagine a familiar place and mentally store pieces of information in specific locations within that place. To recall the info, you walk through your imaginary palace and retrieve each item. This leverages our strong spatial memory. Likewise, turning information into a silly story or image can cement it in your mind. If you need to remember to buy milk, eggs, and bananas, picture a banana milking a cow while juggling eggs. It's bizarre, but that's exactly why you won't forget it. The key is making information meaningful and chunking it into forms our brain naturally prefers, like rhymes, acronyms, or visual scenes. By applying spacing, active recall, and mnemonic techniques, you're essentially training your memory. You're telling your brain repeatedly that this is important, don't drop it. Over time, these techniques can turn a once forgettable piece of information into something you can't easily shake loose. Memory isn't just a storage system, it's deeply tied to our identity and how we perceive the world. Think for a moment about what it means to remember. Our personal history, who we believe we are, is woven from memories of our past experiences. Your first day of school, that heartbreak in college, the smell of your mother's cooking, all these memories shape you. If one day you woke up with all those memories gone, would you still be the same person? In this way, memory gives continuity to our identity. On the flip side, how does forgetting shape us? Sometimes forgetting can be a gift. Imagine if we held on to every embarrassment, every painful loss, every trivial detail. The weight of it all would be overwhelming. Forgetting allows us to heal and to declutter our minds, to let go of the things that no longer serve us. In fact, as we discussed earlier, our brains intentionally let many memories fade so that more important ones can emerge in the spotlight. There's a balance. We need to remember enough to learn and maintain our sense of self, but also forget enough to stay sane and live in the present. Another fascinating aspect is that memory is not always reliable. We often think of memories as like video recordings of the past, but in truth, they're more like sketches that we constantly redraw. Psychologists have found that each time we recall a memory, we might alter it slightly, filling in gaps or mixing in new inputs, resulting in small distortions. In fact, memories are edited and distorted constantly, resulting in inaccurate remembering, as one cognitive science blog put it. Our memories can even be influenced by suggestions or others' retellings, leading to false memories of events that never happened exactly the way we recall. In other words, memory is reconstructive. It's as if every time you take out a book from the library of your mind, you might accidentally smear some ink on the pages before putting it back. This doesn't mean our life stories are lies, but it does mean that remembering is an active, creative process as much as it is a replay of the past. Philosophers and spiritual teachers have long pondered the nature of memory and forgetting. One insightful and perhaps provocative perspective comes from the spiritual teacher Osho, who suggested that living too much in memory can hinder us from truly living. He famously said, "Your memory system is nothing but a graveyard. Try to live without memory and see how life becomes suddenly fresh." What could that mean? Certainly Osho isn't telling us to literally abandon all memory. Rather, it's a call to not become trapped by our past. If we define ourselves only by what we remember, our achievements, failures, traumas, we might limit what we can become. By living without memory, he points to living in the present moment, experiencing life directly, not through the filter of old memories. There's a profound freedom in that idea that each moment can be new, unburdened by stale mental baggage. At the same time, our ability to remember gives us wisdom and learning. It's a double-edged sword. Memory anchors us, and forgetting frees us. Perhaps the wisdom lies in balance. Cherish the memories that uplift and teach you, and be willing to let go of those that weigh you down. As the saying goes, we remember what we cherish, and forget what we neglect. By being mindful of what we focus on and revisit in our minds, we in a way choose what defines us. The psychology of the brain shows us that memory is both an amazing gift and a skill we can develop. We remember and forget for many reasons, some biological, some emotional, some practical, but the beautiful takeaway is that memory can be trained. Just as you can strengthen a muscle through exercise, you can strengthen your memory through little daily habits, spacing out your learning actively, recalling information, and using creative tricks to encode memories. These small, mindful efforts truly do lead to big improvements. Tomorrow you might recall that client's name or ace that exam with ease, and years from now, you might still remember the day you decided to take charge of your memory. So, the next time you struggle to remember something, don't despair. Instead, see it as an opportunity to apply these principles. Pause and try spacing out your study sessions, quiz yourself on the material, or conjure up a vivid image or story to associate with the info. You'll likely find you remember it better, and each time you do, you'll gain more confidence in the remarkable capabilities of your brain. With practice, retaining new information will become easier and more natural, just like building up strength with regular workouts. I'll leave you with a parting question to ponder, and hopefully remember. What memory would you love to strengthen, and what unnecessary thought would you let go of to make room for it? Take a moment to reflect on that. Our memories shape us, but with awareness and practice we also shape our memories. Feel free to share your reflections or a memory tip that works for you in the comments. Let's learn from each other's experiences. And remember, your mind is your most powerful tool. With a bit of care and training, how and what you remember can truly enrich your life.